You are listening to Breaching the Boardroom, the podcast where we explore the intersection of leadership and technology. I'm your host, Zach Moscow, and today we're keeping things here in the Bluegrass State. Kentucky doesn't always get the credit it deserves when people talk about tech ecosystems. But folks here are building something real, and at the center of that work is today's guest. She wears a lot of hats, which honestly is an understatement. She's the executive director of the Tech Association of the Bluegrass, working to pull together a fragmented tech community into something cohesive and powerful. She's the director of partnerships at Awesome Inc. That's the startup accelerator, coding school, and co-working space that's been a pillar of Lexington tech scene since 2009. She's pursuing a doctorate in higher education leadership and organizational development at the University of Louisville. And because 16-hour days aren't enough, she and her husband, Logan, co-own the Basement Rick House in Frankfurt, where they host urban education experiences and build community around Kentucky's signature spirit. Oh, and she's also originally from Mayfield, Kentucky, so she grew up in Western Kentucky and wound up helping lead the innovation economy here in Central Kentucky. That's a journey we're all curious about. So please welcome to the show, Mackenzie Haynes.
Thank you. So glad to be here today.
Yeah, thanks for joining us and taking time out of clearly your very, very busy day to day. So before we get into the tech world, for people who haven't met you yet, which may not be too many folks around Lexington because you're everywhere, what was young Mackenzie like? Did you always see yourself ending up in tech, in entrepreneurship?
Oh, yeah. So great question. So growing up in far West Kentucky, it was a completely different world than where we are now and today. So no, I never aspired for tech. A lot of the industry that I grew up around was very different than that. We had a lot of individuals going and working at USEC up in Paducah, which was helping with like nuclear. We had a lot of my friends' families were working in other communities at different factories. And then we had a thriving healthcare system down there. And so those were kind of the options for me. For me, I was like so dead set to follow a family legacy of opening a veterinary clinic and following my grandfather in his practice. Unfortunately, I learned that helping puppies and kitties is not exactly what a veterinarian does every day. So I went for a shadow day and met the floor during a surgery and realized I was not set to be a veterinarian. The good news is that set me on a completely different path of trying to figure out how to fulfill this part of me that wanted to be a helper in a way that ensured that I was, conscious the whole day long. And so that set me on a very different direction, leaving far Western Kentucky, going to the University of Louisville, studying psychology, learning about how to use the mind to help others. And then through a number of different pathways, following this thread of helping others achieve their best possible selves, got me into our tech system and our tech ecosystem and entrepreneurial ecosystem here in Central Kentucky. So long, a roundabout way that on paper doesn't look quite right, but in reality, that singular thread took me all the way here.
There may be still an element of herding cats in the entrepreneurial world, so you still can get
There's
some of that metaphor.
Veterinary heart. There you go.
So you joined Awesome in the fall of 2020. Is that right? Somewhere around
there. A wild time to decide to join a tech group for sure.
So what about their mission? The mission, for those of you who don't know, is to help people pursue their definition of awesome. How did that resonate with you?
Yeah. So, in the fall of 2020, all of us or most people were focused on survival and what that looked like. And so for the aspirational goal of just living your definition of awesome, not just trying to get through the next day, that was very attractive at the time of, okay, you're right, there's going to be something after this. And what is that after this going to be? Awesome sounded like a really great thing to be searching for and building at that point. And so I actually had a full-time job working at Midway University, loving the work I was doing there, loving my students. But I had this opportunity to help join the team here at Awesome to help our students who are going through the web development bootcamp live their definition of awesome by becoming members of the tech ecosystem. And so I took on this as a part-time job, helping be the career coach for our web development bootcamp, and got to work on that for a handful of years and help those students. They were professionals. Like, they had already had phase one of their career, and they're looking for phase two. And phase two was going to be joining the tech ecosystem. So it was a really, really fun time to start working with those individuals in a kind of chaotic time, a weird transition, but it was the right time for a number of them to make that move into tech.
It's funny. I wasn't in Lexington at the time. I was living in Nashville, and I in 2020 owned a small wine import company and was dealing with all of the logistic chaos of COVID era shipping difficulties. You couldn't even get containers. I mean, it was a huge mess. And so at the same time that you were helping folks do that, I was kind of going through the same thing in my own world in Nashville. And I went and did a web development boot camp and got my MBA and was like, I need to really maybe reimagine what I want to do with myself and my career at exactly the same time that you stepped into that role. So that's pretty cool. And it kind of segues into my next question. You've described your entrepreneurial journey as having the excitement and the struggle, these two extremes, and I think I've certainly lived that. As I just mentioned, is there a moment from your own journey that kind of shapes how you advise or coach or help founders, students that are going through that themselves?
Yeah. Oh, that's a great question. What I've learned from being around other entrepreneurs is that entrepreneurship is the peaks and valleys. That is just part of it. And I think for anyone who is looking to like shy away from the pain and the hard part, it's going to be a rocky road, because there's just not an option in the entrepreneur life. Everything is coasting along. One, you've got some magic, and the rest of us need to hear about it. But two, it's not the normal way. And so I just kind of coach in that way of there's gonna be the hard times. So enjoy this part, but go ahead and start prepping for like the next hard thing. If you are someone who likes to figure out ways to avoid pain, that means that you are now going to be a very big planner, because planning out as far in advance as possible, it's not going to protect you, but it's going to be really helpful because you're going to know that next step to take.
And things tend to change pretty quickly.
Yeah, definitely. Very, very quickly in this work that we do.
I want to get into Tab here in a second, but I know that you're pursuing this doctorate in higher education leadership and organizational development at UL, where you were an undergrad, I think.
Yep.
So what's the research focus? Can you tell us a little bit about what you're focused on? I don't know if you have a thesis or a dissertation or anything like that as part of the program.
Yeah. And this is a big tie into the excitement and the frustration part too. That's part of getting your PhD. I started pursuing this in 2022. So after I started my PhD program and then left higher ed to come full time here at Awesome Inc. And a lot of my colleagues were like, "Hey, like, why are you still doing this?" And one, because I started something, so I'm going to finish it. But number two is because my interest was specifically around adult learners. So when I was at Midway University, and my favorite population that I was working with was our alumni who were coming back to figure out what's round two look like for me. And that's what drew me to the population I started working with here at Awesome Inc. And that's the population that is continually interesting to me, because those individuals are choosing to step into an unknown place. And I'm very curious about what helps them find those successful steps. As someone who was in a role to help people achieve and to help people get through the process and to help people earn their degree and then turn that into their next career, is something that's very interesting to me. So that is what my research is around. So I'm specifically looking at those adult learners who are going back to school to get their bachelor's degree And then I'm curious about how that affects the jobs. So are they getting their degree and then getting a raise? Are they getting a new job? Are they getting a new career path completely? And so what I'm working on, I'm in the dissertation phase right now. So I'm working on building up my first proposal for getting my team to say yes, we'll give you the data and go for it. So what I'm seeing is, we've got a lot of good data from outside of the academy. So we've got different organizations that are not technically like academic, they're not a university. They've got some good data that shows that when adults go back and they get their degree, that there is a positive outcome. So I just want to continue to look at that, look at those people, not just, a cohort, not just a thing, like the humans, and just see, what this thing that they're doing, the challenges that they're stepping into to get their degree, what is the outcome of that? And so that's what I'm continuing looking for. And that just is really in line with all of the work that I do, is really just helping people achieve that next version.
A 100%.
Yeah.
And you're seeing it from a lot of different perspectives. Is there a piece of advice that you kind of find yourself giving over and over to folks who are, I guess you'd call them, for lack of a better term, like non-traditional tech talent?
Oh, yeah. One of the most marketable things about them is that first career that they had. So a lot, especially when we were running the boot camp, I had a lot of people that were like, I was in this industry and I hated it and I want nothing to do with it ever again. And I said, I get that. But the tech people that work in that industry like could really use you. And so I really encourage everyone to not do a full pivot. Like, let's take those transferable skills and knowledge that you have, and then let's use that in career 2.0. So everything that you've earned so much knowledge already, let's not throw that out. Let's keep that and let's use that in this next phase of your career. We actually have a bootcamp alum who works at Apex Software, and the industry that he was in before was very niche. And he actually got to work as a developer with some of his former coworkers on a project that benefits that niche market, that like he specifically was set up so well to do because of his prior experience, because of the education that he got with us, and because of his new career. And so like that is just one of those really magical moments of, there we go. That's the connection. That's that transferable piece that makes such a big difference, that really set him up to do an amazing job on this project.
Kind of lightning in a bottle, but still really, really cool to just,
Yeah.
well, and obviously he did the work to put himself in the position where he could really leverage that experience, right? That's just so cool. Okay, so expanding a little bit, you're working with Transy, you're working with UK, you're working with, I assume, Midway, where you previously worked, and U of L. You're trying to get entrepreneurship into the classroom, right? I follow you on LinkedIn. I see all of these posts about all these entrepreneurship clubs, entrepreneurial clubs across all of these universities and colleges here in Kentucky. So why is that campus connection so critical to the work you're doing with Awesome, with Tab? Is there something that we're doing better than other regions, or that you see a kind of leadership position here in Kentucky?
Oh yeah, for sure. I, being a couple of my previous roles had me working with students at the middle and high school level, and then at the collegiate level. So I've loved working with all sorts of different students. Anybody in that space of like learning and growing and like changing outlook is just a really fun place to be. And I specifically, in this role that I have as a partnership manager for Awesome Inc., I get to go and help build entrepreneurial ecosystems and capacity in places where there weren't any. So for the entrepreneurship clubs, we at Awesome Inc. are leaning into that because we know that the future of our state or of our Commonwealth is really going to be built on what's being currently built right now. And a lot of that is our students. And so we work with students in the Fayette County school system. We helped them launch an entrepreneurship pitch competition. So we had couple of the different high schools. They pitched across against each other back in the spring, which was really fun to see them do that. And then at the collegiate level, we love that entrepreneurship is in the classroom, but we also know it's really hard to teach entrepreneurship. As an entrepreneur support organization, we've been around since 2009. And we've been helping entrepreneurs in a number of different ways. And we know that more is caught than taught. And so we're going into the classroom and we're talking about entrepreneurship in the classroom, but our goal is actually outside of the classroom. We want entrepreneurship clubs on college campuses, giving students opportunities to come face to face with entrepreneurship, face to face with failure, which is a big part of entrepreneurship, and then also have the place where they can get coaching and mentor and growth opportunities so that they can take that next step. So I know we're pretty aware that a lot of the students that are in the entrepreneurship clubs are getting experiences with us that they're just going to shelf for a little while. We know that the early 20s is a really hard time to build a business. I know that there's some out there that are doing it. They have the means, or they have the support, or they have just the crazy brain that's just going to go for it, which is so exciting. But I also know that I'm interacting with students who are about to go to law school, but know eventually that they want to have their own practice. And we have doctors and vets and dentists that are still in their undergrad right now, but they're coming to these club meetings. They're learning about entrepreneurship. They're learning about this entrepreneurial mindset. They're starting to get in that. That's becoming part of who they are. So when they leave, they're able eventually to start doing that work. So our focus as an organization is tech startups. But the extra fingers of that is if I can get more students just engaging in the entrepreneurial mindset, it might go outside of tech, and that's fine. But also, every company is a tech company now. You can't survive without tech. Right. So everybody is kind of connected to that. And so for us, we've got multiple entrepreneurship clubs. So pretty much every college that's in Central Kentucky, and there's a lot of them because we've got public and private, they now have an entrepreneurship club, which is great. We're really excited about all of the work that they're doing. Some of them are having pitch competitions. Some of them are bringing in mentors. We get to work. We started the Kentucky Entrepreneur Hall of Fame in 2010, and we have some of the members from the Kentucky Entrepreneur Hall of Fame who are coming to college campuses and coming face to face with those students. We're getting to share their stories, and then those students are getting to learn from them. So they're saying, you know what? Let me tell you, 50 years in your future is where I'm speaking to you from. Let me give you some lessons. Let me give you some. You might not take all of these to heart, but you're going to remember this. Hopefully, when you start hitting some walls in your entrepreneurial journey, you're going to remember some of this. And our hope is that we are giving them a good foundation of not just knowledge of like how to do the thing, but also knowledge of where to go to get the support. So we want them in 10 years from now to come back over to us and be like, all right, I hung out with you guys in college, and I'm now at this point, I need a tech founder to go along with this idea that I'm working at. Or I am at the point where I think maybe we can go and take this to the next level. And I know that you guys can help me with that. And so that's part of what we're really excited about, is just to be building that. We know that brain drain is an issue that our policymakers are looking at, our college deans are looking at. And then for us, as people who love living and working here, we're very aware that the students that spend time with us sometimes leave this area and they go get that first job somewhere else. Our goal is that they know that they can boomerang back here, that this is the place where they can not just build their family, but they can build their business. And so the work that we're putting in at the college level right now, we're hoping that we have some short-term wins for sure, but we also are building up what we can for those long-term wins for those professionals to be building their companies here. Maybe not now, but eventually.
Yeah, it's foundational work, right? And I think as much as as we talk about the knowledge of what it means to be an entrepreneur and the skill set, I think there's also like there's an attitude, there's a mentality, there's a mindset that I think is really critical to that. And I've lived it myself, and you've lived it, and I'm very excited because this gives me the opportunity to touch on a really fun, awesome rule. One of my favorites, if not my favorites, it's number 26, I think. Don't let stupid things keep you from doing awesome things. And I love that as an entrepreneurial mantra. What does that mean to you? How do you keep yourself and your students and all of the career folks that you're working with anchored to that mantra?
Yeah, it's a good one. Um, I think one of the things that we do is it's funny, like, along with rule 26, don't pay attention to rules. Rule number one is that rules are meant to be broken or bent. But alongside that, it's like there's going to be a lot of people that can tell you the way to do it. Like, this is the way that you build this company. I had an intern last semester from Center College. He was phenomenal. He helped us with our venture fund and researching with that. And he got to go to a mini conference out in Silicon Valley. And while he was out there, he was, talking to people. He loves being here in Kentucky. It's a great experience for him. But when he was out there, somebody said to him, like, you can't build what you're wanting to build there. You have to move here. This is where you have to be if you want to be in this industry and really do good in this industry. Thank goodness the student was like, no, like, I refuse. And so I think it's like saying those people, the they that are telling you the things that you have to know, like, just telling them no and just saying, I don't have to do it that way. I don't want to, and I don't have to. I think that's one of them. There's a lot of rules around, how you should reach out to people and how you should network and how you should. I think a lot of it is just like, hey, we're not going to should. Like, we're not shoulding. Like, there's no need for that. Like, we can just do. We don't have to necessarily follow any of the shoulds that people tell us we have to do. And I think that's a lot of the stupid stuff. Like, we're not gonna deal with that. We're just gonna do what we can. We're gonna do good work, and we're gonna do it in an authentic way, and we're gonna do it to the best of our ability. And that's what we're gonna do with it. I think that fits a lot of our personality as an organization, and I think it's pretty critical for an entrepreneur, especially a startup entrepreneur, to have that mindset.
We're going to stick on core values or rules in Awesome because I'm curious about this one. There are 4 core values at Awesome Inc. Be good, be excellent, be a friend, be you. You're a leader. You're introducing so many people, students, new tech professionals here in Central Kentucky to this world through Awesome and through Tab. Which of those 4 do you think is the hardest to live as a leader or as a tech worker?
Yeah, I think that's really hard for us. And for me, those aren't just independent values. They are actually, we built them foundationally, and we built them in order. So we really do think the foundation is be good. Like, you have to be a good person. And if you're a good person, then you have the moral obligation to do excellent work. And then if you are good and excellent, like, be a friend. One of the kind of pieces in that be a friend is not just be a friend to the people around you, but also be a friend to yourself. Like, take care of yourself. You should be your best friend. You should take care. You should take care of yourself like you would make sure that your best friend was taking care of themselves. And then the last one is be you. And I think be you is kind of, if you're shoulding, if you're back to that, last time, if you're shitting a lot, then you are not you. And that's a problem. So I think depending on who you learned how to be a leader from, be you is hard to follow up with. If there was a very specific role that you saw, these are what leaders look like, sound like, act like, speak like, then it's really hard to be you if you're not that cookie cutter version. For me as a leader, I think that one's a hard one, but I think be good is what's always on the top of my mind, is that I want to make sure that I am being good to those that are around me, which sometimes means that when I'm about to run out the door, but someone walks into the space and they need some information or they need a connection, that I'm going to stick around for a minute and I'm going to be that person to help them get that answer. Or we have an open system, so anybody can go to the awesomeinc.org website and click on I have an idea and tell us about their idea. And part of us being good is being responsive to that and giving feedback. Not every idea is good. Not every idea is a business, but every idea has a kernel of potential that could turn into something that can roll. And so part of us being good is taking the time for all of those inquiries to give feedback, which is very important to us. So for me, I think if you've been taught one way to be a leader, then I think be you is hard. But for me, the thing that I lead with is be good.
Well, I will say from personal experience, when I moved here about a year ago and met you 9-10 months ago, you were very good to me, and you were definitely a friend to me. So I feel like you're doing an awesome, pun intended, job with
Thank you.
that. So thank
Glad to
you.
hear it.
Thank you. I want to ask a couple of personal interest questions, if that's okay. I want to get to the Basin Rick House here in a minute because I really like bourbon, and that's going to be fun to talk about. But first, can you tell? I'm a big Myers-Briggs guy. I like the methodology. For those of you who don't know, this helps categorize individuals into distinct personality types, and this says that you are MBTI certified. Is that?
Yes. Yep. I don't know. I'm probably am due for a re-up on my training or a follow-up, but yes, I went through MBTI training a handful of years ago.
There are a lot of people who think it's hogwash. I believe it. I'm an ENTJ. What are you, Mackenzie?
I am an ENFJ.
Oh, we're pretty close.
Yeah, really close. So I worked in career development for a very long time. Honestly, from the very beginning of my career, it was always figuring out how to help people. And I knew that helping people get in the right career or the right career for now was a big part of that. And so that was part of it. And then when I wanted to help somebody take that next step, I wanted to find the right tool to help. And so for me, Myers-Briggs was one that I felt was super helpful. I felt like it had a good research base and it was something that was still easy enough to understand. And so for anyone who's never done it before, you've got 16 different types. And when you are looking at the Myers-Briggs and trying to figure out, what am I? One of the big things about that is you can take a test to figure out what you are. But for the actual MBTI, your answer from your test is not the end all be all. And so for me as a professional, as I am giving somebody this and then going over the results with them, we have a conversation throughout that so that we can say like, hey, your first letter was an E, so extroversion. This is a little bit about what that means. How is this showing up for you? Is this showing up for you? Does this feel authentic?
You believe it. Yeah, right.
Yeah. And so, and sometimes people are like, no, not at all.
Not
I was
me.
like, well, okay, let's go to the next letter. Let's just double check, and then the next one is sensing or feeling, yeah. And so, which one are you? No, that's not right. Sensing or intuition.
Intuition.
Sorry, intuition. So like, are you getting things as, you're observing the outside world? Are you seeing what is? Or are you seeing what could be? And that's kind of the difference between those. And then one is internal and one is external. And then you're looking at, are you a thinker or feeler? And that's makes a big difference. So like that's where our difference is, right?
Yep.
And so that's an interesting one. And then are you somebody who likes rigidity? Or are you someone who likes open-endedness? And so figuring all of those out and then how they interplay off of each other, I think is really interesting. And so I remember I took a Myers-Briggs before COVID, and my first letter was an I. I took it after COVID, and my first letter was an E. And in the canon, you cannot change who you really are. So what I was like, okay, well, maybe I was, maybe this is who I was all along.
They're all, I mean,
Yeah.
there are gray areas, right? These aren't black and white. It's very, very rare for someone to be so extreme towards one of those two poles, right?
Yep.
And to your point, it's understanding. I think I use it as a measure of self reflection. Like, am I responding to this opportunity, this interaction, the way that I am, like, my id or my ego, like what part of me is reacting to this, and how can I understand who I am better, to be good, to be excellent, to borrow your all's phrases there. And I think self-reflection is really important, and I admire folks who afford it the time that it really needs.
And it's helpful to know the people around you. So, if you've got a collection of people around you who have, Myers-Briggs is a great one, but if you've got a team, so, thinking as a leader and thinking as a leader of a team, if you're wanting to help your team interact better, picking an assessment that everyone can take and that everyone can know about each other so that you can figure out how to best communicate is super important. So if you've got someone who is sensing, talking to someone who is very, I see what's in front of me, whoever is in that conversation, you've got to change how you communicate so that you can share things, because you are both taking in information in different ways and you are telling information in different ways. So if you can better know your team because of whatever personality assessment you all take together, then you can find a way to find that common ground better, faster. And if you all can find the common ground faster and then you can go in the same direction faster, which means that you can be more efficient. You can get more done. You can take things to the next level because you're starting from speaking the same language, because you both know each other and you know your personality types. So, I'm big on the MBTI. I love it. A lot of my team here loves to do Enneagram.
Mm-hmm.
So normally we're asking you, like, what's your Enneagram, or what is, we did the DISC assessment a couple of years ago. That's really important. And then that way we can kind of see, where are our gaps as a team and how we think and how we analyze things and how we perform the work that we do. And that helps us just be mindful of where, if we've got a big project coming up and we know that somebody is super detail oriented and they're the one leading it, we know that we're going to have to keep pushing them along. Like, done does not mean it's perfect. Done means it's done. Like,
Right.
we're going to keep it. Yeah.
How often have you all, I mean, is there an organizational priority to do these every couple of years, or is it just kind of ad hoc when it feels like there's enough new faces where the team just kind of needs to reset and go through that exercise?
Yeah. More the second. So from the early years of Awesome Inc., we had a lot of turnover because we were young, nimble, and then people were kind of taking and ready to go that next phase. Now our team, I think our average tenure is like 6 years.
That's great.
So we have a team that's been here for a really long time. So I started in 2020. I'm at year 6 as well. And we just celebrated one of my team members who just had 5 years, this month. So a lot of us have been around for a really long time. So we do life together and we know those things about each other, but we also have a couple of openings. So now, as we're getting some new faces in, it's time for us. Part of group dynamics is there's going to be some storming happening as everyone's readjusting. And during that time, it's a really good time for us to look at these assessments again and talk about them openly, talk about, our preferences and our communication styles to make sure that everyone's just on the same page so that we can get through this phase of upheaval, which is a normal thing, to get to the place where we are running on all cylinders again and elevating even more.
Love it. Mm-hmm. All right, real quick, bourbon. Tell me about the Basement Rick House. So you and Logan started this company out of your home. Yeah. I'm just really curious about the genesis of this idea.
Yeah, bourbon is built on community, and so back in I don't know, sometime before COVID, 2018, 2017, we moved to Central Kentucky in 2010, and we decided we either needed to get really into horses or really into bourbon, and our HOA wouldn't let us have a horse, so that was our choice.
Easy choice.
And so we loved every time people would come visit us, we just go visit a distillery. And we would take people, we were young and we were broke. And so we went to like the cheap ones and the free ones, and we would just take tours. And at the end of it, you got a drink, you got an hour's worth of stories, you got a beautiful place to look at. And for us, we're kind of history nerds. And so as people would be telling us the stories of the distilleries and the stories of the people who built this community, we were intrigued. We loved it. We were those people that we would go on a tour a couple of times and we would know the stories. And if a tour guide left one out, we'd be in the back of the group telling our friends well, they didn't tell you this story this time, so you should know about this. This is really cool. And so we got to the point where it was just something that it was a fun thing for us to do, to introduce other people into. My husband got a really great opportunity to pick up a hobby job working at Buffalo Trace. And so he was a tour guide a couple weekends a month. Then he got the opportunity to be on the tasting panel. So there's a couple of years where he was approving every barrel that became a bottle of Pappy and Blanton's and Elmer T. Lee. So he was getting really good things. Got to hang out with some of the most storied people at Buffalo Trace for a while. And as our lives changed and we needed to do some different things with our weekends, he had amassed such a knowledge, and I've amassed such a knowledge of the industry and the people and the history. And when he was no longer giving tours, there needed to be an outlet for that. And so in 2021, in 2020, 2021, we built a basement bar. We actually made a wall that looks like a rick house and built our bar ourselves. And we had a lovely collection at the time that just kind of grew over time. But we started there. We had a mixology class that we hosted with some friends. My husband did one of those TikTok videos where it had everyone's got this one thing in their house. And so he recorded this video of walking down our stairs, panning the bar, and then he uploaded it to TikTok. It didn't even tell me. And we had our mixology class. It was a blast. Next morning, we're hanging out, we're cleaning up. He was like, "Oh yeah, I forgot. I posted this thing on TikTok." And I was like, "You dance on TikTok? What are you talking about?" And he pulled it up, and we had over 100,000 views overnight. And so we were like, "Oh, this is what TikTok does." And so at the time, bourbon TikTok was a really big thing. We got welcomed into that community, which was so fun. And we finally found this outlet for this knowledge that we had amassed. And the really fun thing is, at that point, people started telling us more stories, or they started sending us links to things, or they started sending us books with other stories. And so we took that opportunity to start resharing bourbon in a way where it wasn't something that you had to follow a bunch of rules and how you enjoyed it. We got to share how it was meant to be as a community and as fun and as whatever you needed it to be. We had the opportunity to do some barrel picks with some really great brands. So we got to do a Restoration Rye from Castle and Key. We got to do a delicious one from Starlight. So they had Amburana barrels, which give a very unique fragrance and flavor to the bourbon. And so it was a second barrel for that bourbon. And so it tastes like snickerdoodle cookies, which is really good. And then we got to do a partnership and a barrel pick with Old Elk, which is out in Colorado. So through those experiences, we continued to grow. We had an amazing opportunity to get flown out to a insurance conference. The headliner for the night was Rob Van Winkle, also known as Vanilla Ice. And so we got to help. I was so proud. Got to teach Vanilla Ice how to do the Kentucky Chew. We have some videos hanging out with him and sharing some very expensive Pappy that we were drinking out of solo cups. So it was a really crazy experience. We got flown out to meet some of our some people from some HGTV shows, do a tasting for some of them. It was a wild ride. It was a lot of fun. But all at the heart of it is the people and the community. We got to meet some really great people. We had a veteran come out to our party that we had out at Castle and Key and tell us that because of what we were sharing and the community that we were building, that he was dealing with a lot of PTSD, but he found the courage to come out and to come to some bourbon community things. And so he thanked us, and we were blown away because the people is what matters. So it's fun.
What a great story. I'll look for an invite to the basement bar at some point. I want to wrap up, but just real quick, for anybody who's listening, whether they're here in Kentucky or listening from anywhere else in the country or the world, is there one thing that you would recommend that they do to support their local tech community? It can be small, it can be big. What can anybody who's interested do?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm gonna start here local. So the Tech Association of the Bluegrass, we were created to help provide a place and a space for the tech companies here in Lexington and the surrounding counties. And what we saw when we started in 2018 was that there wasn't a group of people that were moving the industry forward. What we were seeing was we have a lot of great companies like Apex Software, one of the companies that helped start Awesome Inc. They have a team of like 12 developers and individuals, but they were having a hard time finding others to connect with so that they could continue to grow their skills, grow their knowledge, grow their community. And we had a ton of companies just like that here in Central Kentucky. And so providing that place for them to connect and to find each other has been super important. From an economic development standpoint, if we can make the tech community more visible, it's a more attractive place for other tech workers to come to. It's really hard to recruit for any company to recruit somebody that's highly skilled in something to come to a town where they don't see a lot of people like them. Mm-hmm. So the Tech Association is a place that makes our tech community visible because we've got a lot of tech people that are working for a ton of different companies spread across this community. But until there was a centralized place for them to know each other, everyone was fragmented. And so I'd say for here in Central Kentucky, join the Tech Association of the Bluegrass so that you can be a part of your community. You can share things that you're looking for. So one of the big wins is recently the Lexington government put forth some money to help support a tech internship program so that tech companies in Lexington can get some additional funding to help them bring on tech talent so that we can retain those individuals here in our community so they can get connected to our community and our companies so they can be successful long-term here, which is super important. And so I think if you are listening and you are not in this area, I'd say find one of the tech associations that represent your area. A lot of them are members of a larger group called TECNA. So you can go to the TECNA website and you can search your community and see who is running your tech association. If you don't have a tech association, I would say help start one. We worked with the Commerce Lex here in Lexington to help get ours up and going. So reach out to your local Chamber of Commerce or your EDA or a university, and that can help you get a community going. Here in Kentucky, we've got us tab here in Central Kentucky. There is Talk in Louisville, and then exciting, Bowling Green started one, I think about 2 years ago, the Regional Tech Council. And so those are three big areas here in Kentucky where the tech ecosystem is critically important and growing. So I'd say get involved, look that up on TECNA, and find your community to get in touch with.
Awesome. And for those of you listening in Central Kentucky, that's the Tech Association of the Bluegrass. That's tabky.org. Also, awesomeinc.org. You can find Mackenzie at Basement Rick House on socials. Last question before we get out of here. Other than your basement, what is your favorite bourbon bar in central Kentucky?
Oh, okay. There's so many. That is such a mean question to ask.
No, I'm sorry.
But I have to support my actual town. So we have in Frankfurt an amazing bar called the House of Commons, affectionately known as the Bourbon Library. So you can find a bunch of vintage bottles there. You can have a great atmosphere where you can just sit and have a delicious cocktail, or you can do your own flight. And I would say that is my number one. And there's like 50 number twos. So don't ask me that.
Mackenzie, this was awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. Everybody listening, thanks for another episode of Breaching the Boardroom, and we will see you next time. Goodbye.
Thanks so much.